A lot to get through this morning. We'll be touching on the boxing. Crazy end to the David Adeleye fight, was it not?
Bad refereeing. If you want to talk about bad refereeing, talk about it in combat sports, because that's where people's lives are put at risk and careers are jeopardised.
Yes.
And bad refereeing throughout the entire fight. It wasn't just in the instance where David Adeleye damaged TKV and ultimately knocked the fight. It was bad refereeing during the entire fight.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, promoter of the event, Frank Warren, will join us live on that. As you say, when life's at risk, Simon, you need the man in the middle to have a grip of things.
Yeah,
and boxing gets away with this all too often. We'll get into that with Frank. In the world of boxing, it was a very disappointing night for Joe Joyce. Joe Joyce up against Filip Hrgović, who was a late stand-in, of course, a late replacement for Dillian Whyte. But Hrgović won by unanimous decision, with Joyce now losing 4 of his last 5 fights. Promoter Frank Warren joins us live on the show. Frank, good morning. I know we don't want to jump the gun because Joe Joyce is a very good guy and would hope to carry on. Do you think he will carry on? What's the latest you can give us? Good morning, Frank.
Good morning, chaps. What do I think? I think it's going to be his decision. He's going to speak to, obviously, his family, his trainer, his manager, and I'm going to have a conversation with him. And then after that, it'll be his decision what he does. But, when you're getting older, he's 9 years of age now. It was a very close fight. I'm not complaining about the decision at all. I think one of the scorecards was off. But I think it's time to him to evaluate what his future will be, because losing that fight means he's going to have to get into. If he comes back and has another fight, it's not going to be easy for him. That's for sure. So I would prefer that he gives it real consideration and not just jump in with both feet, because all fighters are the same. They all want to fight on, every one of them. And there's an old adage in boxing that, for me, is an old adage anyway, is that the first person to know that he's not the fighter he was is the boxer, but he's the last to admit it.
Yeah, indeed. Simon, beside me, Frank, watched it. I mean, you said that as far as you could see, Simon, he just took way too much unnecessary punishment from Hrgović.
Well, it's not unnecessary punishment because Hrgović is not a mug fighter. And Joe Joyce has always taken lots of punishments and has always been susceptible to taking punishment. The difference is now he's losing fights as a result of taking punishment. I mean, I disagree with Frank, and I know that I will always run into the argument that I never boxed and I don't know what I'm talking about, but I didn't see it as a close fight. I think Hrgović hit him when he wanted to. And the only thing he didn't hit him was a seat from the ringside. I watched the fight wincing because I like Joe Joyce. I don't want to tell him to retire. He's a man of his own mind. I'm assuming those around him that care about him will give him that sort of advice. And if you read between the lines, probably that's where Frank may end up going. Now, he won't say it on air, and I don't blame him, because he has to be diplomatic and allow the fighter to make his right decisions. But I don't want to see Joe Joyce in a ring being used as a punch bag for Moses Atoma or someone like that. And I look at it now and I see him, and I think the fights against Zhilei Zhang did the damage. At one point, he was in real ascendancy after Joe Parker. Zhang was his kryptonite. I don't think he looked good against Cash Ali. Chisora fight was up and down, but he lost it. And in this fight, Hrgović had a shorter camp. He was fit, but not as fit as he could have been for the fight in terms of a full camp. And I thought he was on a different level to Joe. And what Joe was unbelievably game. Unbelievable. But when you're sitting there watching the fight, and I'm listening to the commentators, I know Frank will probably disagree with me, and I'm listening to Carl Frampton, and I'm listening to Adam Smith, and I'm listening to Darren Barker. I know that they're all elite fighters and elite commentators, and they're saying this fight was close. I just thought that it was difficult to watch, and I thought Joe Joyce, as game as he was getting his face punched in.
Frank, how difficult is it, Frank, just to ask you this question, to convince a boxer that his time is up and you need to rescue him from himself?
It's not even just that, and I'm not applying this to Joe, by the way, but if you are in that position, it's very difficult because it's really simple. As long as he's licensed by a boxer's licensed by the Boxing Board of Control, you can say, I'm not going to promote you anymore, and he'll go off and be promoted by somebody else. Or in the cases years ago, former British champion who beat Mike Tyson, Danny Williams, he went up and fought abroad for years, and there lies the problem. So it's, the border control are there and they're monitoring. I know they tested him quite a few times. He had quite a few tests before the fight. They'll be right on top of this, no doubt about that. And we'll see where it goes. But I only agree with one thing that you said there, Simon. His game. I watched that fight and I watched what Joe did. What he was doing when he was walking, stepping to his right. A lot of those punches that were getting thrown, they were catching him. But when I say by catch, they weren't landing with full force, and he was riding those punches. You watch it back, and that's where Carl and Darren Barker were fighters themselves. That's where they were coming from in their commentary on the fight.
Yeah, I mean, it was a very, for me, it was a close fight. I'm not complaining about the decision. Could have gone either way, but he did not lose that fight by 6 rounds. It was a judge who refereed the fight between David Adeleye.
Yeah, well, Frank, while we have you on, that's exactly where I want to go. David Adeleye claimed the British heavyweight title, but it was a controversial stoppage of Jeamie TKV. Adeleye dropped Jeamie twice in the 6th round, the second resulting referee Ron Kearney calling off the fight, but replays, Frank, appeared to show referee Kearney clutching TKV's glove and calling on both fighters to break before Adeleye dropped TKV. I mean, where do we go with this?
Right, where do we go? I watched it at the time. He did call break. I heard him say it because I was sitting right at the front row and I could hear what he said. He did call break, and the momentum of the fight was that David threw his punch and caught him, and as you're saying, he didn't clutch his hand. He pushed his hand away, and I watched it back again. The referee from the start of the fight was, for me, never took proper control of it. It was up, for about the first 3 or 4 rounds. It was a bit of a mauling affair. He should have pulled the fighters apart, had a word with them about it, which he didn't do, but he got it wrong. And David Adeley's with me. He got it wrong. I've spoken with the board this morning, and they've got a hearing, a board meeting on Wednesday, and no doubt they'll look at that very closely and make a decision as to what will happen. But for me, it's referees referees in these type of fights, big fights, televised fights. He just wasn't up to it on the night, and I don't want to be criticising boxing reason. I heard you said I'm in the car at the moment, the early part of the programme, Jim, another controversy with referees. It's like another controversy that we have with football referees as well. Referees are referees, and unfortunately in this one, he did get it wrong.
Okay, Frank, thank you very much for joining us. Frank Warren with us live there, and the referee got it wrong.
Yeah, it's not a great comparison, though, isn't it? You don't lose your life on a football field, do you? And referees have to be stronger. And it's an interesting one because I didn't hear Frank when Hamza Shiraz punched Bradley Skeet when he was on the floor, when Bradley Skeet wasn't a prospect and Hamza Shiraz was campaigning for or suggesting that the referee needed to be dealt with. Yeah. That was poor refereeing then. This was poor refereeing on Saturday.
You heard Frank Warren there say that as regards the controversial finish to Adeleye TKV fight at the weekend, he has spoken to the British Boxing Board of Control, and the referee got it wrong. Simple as. It's 11:30.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.